Let's talk about a thing on Witchtok that I hate. Or the whole community, is a matter of fact, not just Witchtok. I've seen it other places too. I will try to put this as simply as I can. Not all spirits are trickster spirits. And trickster spirits are not inherently evil. And I don't know where this idea came from. Because if you've done any research on what a trickster spirit actually is, it's more like an umbrella term that involves particular entities. For example, coyotes can be tricksters. Foxes can be tricksters. If I remember correctly, I believe Kokopelli was a trickster. But we're on a fence on whether he is a spirit or a deity. I would have to touch back because I haven't read about him in a while. But, point being, most of what you are identifying as a trickster spirit isn't even a trickster spirit. Most of them are house spirits. Let me tell you about house spirits. Especially like, we call them little people. They like to play pranks on people. They're like little class clowns. They like to hide your stuff. They like to move your stuff. They like to throw things at you. They like to slam doors and stuff like that. You'll be laying in bed at night and you'll hear them run through the house. These are not trickster spirits. These are house spirits. And if you are nice to them, they are nice to you. If they take your stuff, ask for it back and it'll boop. Suddenly you'll find it. But you need to stop labeling everything a trickster spirit when you don't even know what that actually is. So learn a little bit more about your spirits before you just start blindly labeling stuff. And even so, trickster spirits still are not inherently evil. And everybody is, oh no, he's a trickster spirit. It's not. And if you have something that is hostile and negative in your house, I can guarantee you it is not a trickster spirit. So do not handle it as such. That is something else entirely that has weaseled its little way into your home. And the only way they're going to do that is if you mess something up, accidentally invited them, your protection ain't on point, one of those things. There is a break in your barrier somewhere. But yeah, make sure you're doing your research before you label something. Because when you mislabel it and then you try to get rid of it, the means isn't going to work because you're not using the right remedy. End recording. Stop. So we're going to talk about a very sensitive things about Witchtok that I hate. Let's talk about hexing. And, negative magic. Now, I'm not going to condemn negative magic or hexing or jinxing or whatever. The umbrella of offensive magic, we'll say. I understand that there is a time and place for these things. Perfectly fine. But the time and place for these things are not and will never be because your butt hurt over some petty thing. Oh, someone hurt your feelings. And I noticed this particularly with the younger crowd. Oh, my friend was mean to me. I'm going to hex them. Well, that makes you a sucky friend, for one. And that is not how it is supposed to be used. And it is incredibly irresponsible. Now, let's talk about it. So, this is under the assumption that you know how to properly hex to begin with. And I do not mean you Googled. So, let's assume you do. This also does not mean that you understand how to undo it, which is equally important. If you do not know how to undo a casting or a ritual, you do not need to be doing it. Period. It is incredibly irresponsible. And to be honest, if you are a younger practitioner and you are hexing all willy-nilly because somebody said something you didn't like or someone was rude to you, one, I find it to be incredibly cowardly that you default to magic instead of handling your business. That's it. May I remind you at the start of this video, I said there is a time and a place. So, this does not apply to everything. This is specifically applying to the people that just sling it around without any kind of respect for what it is. If you do not know how to undo it or do it properly. You should not do it at all. And you need to learn how to handle your business as a person instead of relying on that. Because if you are relying on that, you are giving yourself a handicap. And you're like killing your own self-confidence to deal with the everyday world. You cannot always rely on magic to fix your problems. You have a voice. I recommend you use it, and not for, chanting horrible things at people. There's a time and place for that too. Just saying. I am okay with hexing as long as it is in a good scope of things. But don't play with it if you don't know what it is. Howdy, y'all. So, let's talk about a thing on Witchtok I hate. Now, I know I've not made one of these in a little bit now, but I'm feeling extra spicy today. So let's talk about pay to play. So what does that mean, pay to play? Well, as the name implies, it means paying for certain things in order to be a part of certain things. Now, I know that this can be like kind of a salty subject, and I will go ahead and proceed by saying, I know people do not have to abide by my personal morals, ethics, or operating standards, we'll say. I understand that. I'm perfectly fine with that. This is what I have a problem with. I have a problem with people specifically overcharging services. And I don't mean like, a little bit overcharged or, they're a little expensive. I mean dramatically overcharging for things. So, let's talk about it. Now, I recently come across a video, and I had a couple other people send me this video as well. And it was about, I will not name names because, I never really name names, and I'm not about that, dragging people's names through the mud. But let's get to the point of it. So they are allegedly mediums. They do services like consultations, cleansings, and whatnot. So when I saw the video, I was like, fuck yeah, this is great. This is great. She knows her stuff. She's a little on point. And I like that. I like when someone's right. Now, that doesn't mean that I subscribe to everything that they think or say or do. Just that, like, in this particular instance, I'm on board. So, out of curiosity, because I have been juggling with the ideas of paying for my services. So, as some of you know, I am a worker. I actively go out and do services for people. So, I was considering charging for it. Nothing dramatic, the cost of supplies and maybe a little extra. Because, I'm going to be honest, when I do the big jobs, they are expensive. Like, thousands of dollars expensive. And that's something that I pay for out of pocket. But I go on their page, and they're charging like $50 for a personal cleanse. I think it was like $150 something to cleanse a house, and like $500 to cleanse a business, which is essentially just as much as it's the same space as a house. But I mean, that's like absurd. That's like, to me, in my opinion, that is like overcharging for medication because you can. I am coming up on my 3-minute mark, but let's make this into a part 2 because I feel some type of way about it. So, part 2 on things I hate about Witchtok, episode 11, I believe. Pay to play. So, as I left off, these people are charging like astronomical amounts of money to come cleanse a house. Like, cleansing a house is something you can do in a day. And it's not that difficult, and the supplies to do so aren't that much. So, where they get the idea of like, okay, we're going to charge $150 for this is like wild to me. Now, I'm doing a job this weekend for a very nice lady and her husband, and it's going to be ideally straight to the point. And it's just going to be like a house cleansing, cleanse them, ward up the house and everything, remove a parasitic nasty thing. Pretty run of the mill. And the only thing that I am charging for is the cost of supplies, because I did have to get a lot of supplies for this because there is a layering essence to this job. And I kept all of my receipts for everything so I can verify all of it with her. And, I like to be very professional with my jobs. But the idea of even charging someone upwards of $500 excess dollars to cleanse a business because, a shop ain't that big. So I don't know. Now, let me get down to that because I'm sure some people are probably like, well, maybe they're really good at what they do and da-da-da-da. That's fine. That's fine. But let me tell you about some red flags. A red flag is someone that very specifically guarantees their work first try, wham, bam, done. And I'll explain why. I have 100% success rate. 100%. I have never flubbed a job yet. So, why that's important. Even though I have 100% success rate, I know that there can come a day where it don't work. It hasn't happened yet. Do I think it's going to happen? I would like to say no. But the truth of the matter is I don't know. There might come a day where I can't get the job done. Now, one thing I do is I will do follow-up. I will keep in touch with my clients. I will follow up with them, whether it's a week, a month, a year, to make sure what we did stuck. I also leave maintenance instructions for what I've done. I explain what I've done. That way, they can maintain their house. They can maintain their business. They can make sure whatever their problem was. So, oh gosh, I'm coming up on 3 minutes again. The point is, do your research. If somebody is charging too much, don't trust it. Look around. See what other people charge.